you just have to make sure, get your emotions out of it, no matter what your position code is or title. All right. And be able to have a debate and discuss and talk about it. And there are times we got to say, hey, business is business, and personal is personal. And this isn't personal, but we got to talk business.
Hey everyone, welcome to Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers, where we aim to share real stories about running a successful family business, working through adversity, and pouring back into the community that keeps our door open. We're your hosts, Matt, Shelby, and Taylor, and we bring you relevant local business advice and automotive insights that are sure to change the way you look at running a business, and maybe even throw in a plug for you to do business with us.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 18, Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers. We're your hosts, the Lewis Brothers, Matt, Shelby, Taylor, bringing you a brand new subject this week. Where do I start? Now, what does that mean in context? Where do I start? Business idea, new business, new operations, new process of doing something. How do I implement that? What does that look like? Should I actually do that? Where should I go from here? Who's involved? Who's not involved? We're going to break all that down, all the ideas that are in your head, and we're going to help you put it into plan.
Absolutely.
Put it on paper and let it rip from there. So that's what we're diving into today.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be an exciting episode, but we do need to rewind the tape just a little bit to last week. Man, was it a fun one. We had guests on last week from Dealer OMG.
Oh, man.
And if you have not researched or started to follow them, I encourage you to. And you can start by listening to the last two episodes.
Yeah.
It was a double header that we went through. Dealer OMG is a incredible marketing company that focuses not only on digital, but on social marketing. We've been doing business with them for a while.
Yeah.
So we've known the ins and outs. It's not a fly-by-night place that we just said, hey, do you want to come on the show? We've seen the fruit of what they've helped us do. But we got to challenge them. Not only did we figure out about their business, we got to challenge them it was fun, Taylor. You asked them about hey, if I just got $500, let's say I'm a small business out there, I got $500, how would you invest it? Where would you get an ROI? So it was really valuable information, and I encourage you go back and listen to both episodes 16 and 17 to hear more insights on what went on last week. As always, we do want to call out, make sure you go to lewissuperstore.com, check all of our latest deals, our fresh inventory, and follow and like us on all the socials for most up-to-date information.
Absolutely. Hey, what did we drive today? We went through everything. We went to the end of the year specials, everything for business-wise, but big deal here. We hadn't talked about this. This is a mild, and it's in the word, but a hybrid of a vehicle. It was a 4xe Wrangler.
It was, and Shelby, you were talking about on the way up here, we look at data and we look at automotive, insight and trends, what's going on with the consumers out there. Because this is one thing, what does the manufacturer build? But then what does the consumer want? These are plug-in hybrids. So it's kind of the bridge between
So break that
hybrid.
down. What does that look like? How does that function?
So it can function as a hybrid, or it can function as an all-electric vehicle. So in between there, we call it the plug-in hybrid.
Okay.
So you can plug it in and recharge. It's got a larger battery than a hybrid does, but it's got a little bit smaller battery than a full EV. Okay. And the reason why is because it still has a gas motor.
Okay.
So the 4xe we drove up here, it is a plug-in hybrid. I've got a Pacifica plug-in hybrid. Escape makes a plug-in hybrid. So what that allows you to do is get anywhere from a 30 to a 40-mile all-electric range by plugging in. But let's say your kid unplugged it last night. You forgot to plug it in last night, or you got to drive more than 40 miles. Then the gas motor just takes over.
Drive.
You don't have to pop the hood and switch the transfer case?
Not at all. You don't have to. The gas motor just takes over. And not only does the gas motor take over, the hybrid technology takes over.
So you don't go just pure electric, pure gas. And that's the cool thing. I think the average MPG, they add an extra here, MPG is over 100. It's like 105 miles per gallon with electricity. So if you came with a full battery, like you said, range from 18 to 40 miles.
Sure.
And then put that with the hybrid portion, per each gallon of gas you put in there, you get over 105 miles.
That's amazing. And I can talk a little real world. That's why Taylor kicked it to me. My wife drives a plug-in hybrid Pacifica. We've got about 54,000 miles on it now. So it's 0 miles. And on average, we put 1 tank of gas in it a month. And for everybody out there going, well, how big is that tank? it's a 16-gallon tank. We put 16 gallons of gas in that every single month and go everywhere in it.
So it's really cool that you don't have to be concerned about range anxiety or where's the charger or supercharger or how I'm plugging, because it's not a huge battery that you have to take a long time to charge.
That's right.
But then you can still drive it just as a gas, or you could do it as all electric or as a hybrid. It's like the Swiss Army knife.
It really is.
And we talked about the business. So in AADA, we were going over those stats, and that's Arkansas Dealer Association. It was the largest any electric segment growth, and it was actually the Jeep that had the largest segment growth. So whether it be the 4xe Wrangler or the 4xe Grand Cherokee, that is the largest growth of sales actually made it to the customer in the state of Arkansas last year.
It's a great bridge, because I think if you surveyed people out there, they're like, hey, if I could save money on gas and get a better gas mileage, sign me up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But the all EV, they're like, what happens if? What if I get stuck if? So this is perfect for them.
And it's really cool in a Wrangler. Like, it's really cool that you have that power. Taylor, you were talking about driving the Lightning up on the rock, like how the power is
That's
there.
the cool part about it. You know, the Wrangler, and they switched this to getting completely off-road. You can go all electric mode whenever you're doing it, and the power is there. The other day, we were putting up on front of the building. We got entrances in there, and I was putting the Lightning up on there. It did better than any Bronco Raptor, 392 Wrangler, any truck, because the torque was instantly there and it was smooth. So it crawled up there so easily. So the Wrangler gets into there. The 4x8, there's so many cool aspects of that plug-in hybrid.
But also the Escape has it too. And, we've just finally seen some of those trickle in. So, the Escape's a fantastic vehicle. It's already fuel efficient, but then you put the hybrid and the plug-in technology on top of it.
And then because the manufacturer needs to sell it, here's the key here. Incentives, we saw in December incentives with tax credits over $13,000 off the Escape plug-in hybrid.
What happens if somebody buys that vehicle? Let's say they live in an apartment, or let's say they don't want to mess with plugging it in. What happens if they never plug it in?
Nothing. You just drive it. It's no different than the taxi cabs that we see. That we see in New York. The old Escape hybrid, there wasn't a plug-in, and that's where you were getting that. You don't ever have to plug it in, and you just drive as a normal car. But what they would do in New York City, we'd ask them. That's something we've always done. We get in like, how many miles your car have? We get in these Escape hybrids that were like 06s to 08s, and they have 300,000 miles. Like, the hybrids still work. And it was the original auto stop start, because when they would get to the light, it would just completely shut off because the hybrid portion, something had gone bad, but they still worked. So you don't have to worry about it. You just, if you can't plug it in, don't worry about it.
That's good stuff. Obviously, we put the plug there for our business, but it was also to talk about what's relevant in the automotive industry and what people have a lot of discussion around. So we want to be able to cover that on this podcast too.
Absolutely. So it's huge there, and we were definitely passionate. There's so many different things on that vehicle there. Hey, but transitioning into the first topic there. Hey, going from an idea to execution. So Matt, Shelby, many entrepreneurs get stuck at that idea stage. Kind of walk us through going through that there, what that looks like.
So first off, the idea part. To some people, ideas and creativity come easy. To some people, they don't. It's kind of like growing up in school. Some people were autistic and some people weren't. Some people were creative and some people weren't. So coming up with the ideas, that's really, I want to say it's the easy part if you have the right people in the room. So whether you just come up with this idea while you're driving down the road or you're running down a trail or whatever else it may be, or if you go, I need to expand my business or what other opportunities, and you gather the correct people, and Shelby, I'll let you go over the correct people in the room to start brainstorming on ideas on either a new business idea or how to expand your current business.
So once you learn a person that their personality trait is an idea person, then you realize you identify that person, you have those meetings of like, let's just have a whiteboard session. Like, what are opportunities? And most of the time, and we talked about this, been a podcast on it, but opportunities first within your own business. So if there's an idea floating around, okay, what's the idea? Like, what's something we currently pay someone to do? That's the easiest way to find an idea. But you'll get this room full of people. It might be 1 or 2 people. It might be 6 people. And we'll just start spitballing ideas. It's no different than trying to create a business or create a fix to a problem. And we'll start writing them all down.
Yep.
Now, you have to be careful there that everyone has proper expectations that just because their idea goes on the board doesn't mean that it's going to come to fruition. Right? And so it's just, and it might be like not a no, but it's a not yet idea. And so that's generally where most of our business ideas will come from, is what's a bottleneck currently in our business.
Sure.
Or what's an issue, or what could we be better at or control more of. And it's not because we want more control, it's because it allows us to be able, and we talked about that, and I was reassured that from a customer that had a difficult situation, that we sell other makes and models, and a customer had an issue with their GMC Yukon. We said, absolutely, bring it in, we'll take care of it. Well, here's an idea for you. Even if you're not the one taking care of it, you should at least allow the customer to bring it to you, and then you take care of it, so you become that one-stop shop. Well, not everyone in our entire business understood that, and so the ball was dropped. Service advisor said, well, we don't work on those. You need to take that to Chevy Fayetteville, or you need to take that over to the GMC store. And I was like, uh-oh, the customer's like, hey, you told us to bring it here. And I said, hey, no worries, we can take care of that.
Yeah.
So then now that's our thought when we build that commercial truck shop in the back, where we have 4 independent techs that can work on anything. Don't care what the emblem is, we can work on it. And so that was, kind of the idea, thinking of what's currently going on. You whiteboard those things and you start circling.
Yeah.
It's like a treasure map. You start circling the things that like, oh yeah, we really need those. Or we can, yep.
I think the biggest deal too you run into, y'all both talked about, getting the group together, getting the people together, start rolling through the ideas. This is probably the biggest hurdle people have problems with, is the uncertainty. How do you deal with the uncertainty whenever you're talking about ideas or anything else?
You bet. Because that's usually a roadblock on like, how do I move forward? Will this work? Will it fail? And there's encouragement out there, and I'm going to encourage you as well. It's okay to fail. It's also okay to put yourself out there and try an idea, and if it doesn't work, scrap it and move on. If you look at the most successful people out there, if you look at for every win they had hundreds of failures or hundreds of ideas, but they had to get through 100 or 500 or 20 to get that one good one. And the only way they could do that is by continuing to come up with new ideas and then putting those in place. Show a little bit about what you talked about there. Let's break down a little bit where an idea would come from. An idea might come from a solution to a problem in a process that's currently going on in your business. It could come from, hey, I want to expand. There's opportunity. Let's look for ideas there. It could come from within your current business on how to just make it scale and grow through marketing or planning or this or that. So when you're looking at each of those ideas, then you need to know your crew that you bring in, so you're not doing it by yourself, because you need a core group of idea people, just like you talked about, that you can start whiteboarding, circle those, cross them off. But then when it comes time to move on from those ideas, it's normally not the same people in the room.
No, it's you have your idea people, and then you have your executor people. And so then in between those, you have to have a plan. You have to understand step by step. And so then that's how you talked about how you go through of knowing you can't just have an idea. So you have your idea people, you take those people out of the room, then you have your next meeting. That's, okay, here's the ideas. Here's the one that we circled we're going to work on. Here's our step-by-step of how we're going to do it. Here's our game plan and go. And if it fails, then we'll retract. No, you got to give it a fighting chance. That's no different than planning something. Like you have to have the proper soil, and you have to water it, and you have to give it time to grow there. But that's a complete different person. The executor is a different person than your thought person.
I just wanted to plug that piece in, and we're going to dissect it here in a little bit. It's just you understand you have different people to lean on at each stages of an idea, because there's the brainstorming of the idea and the spitballing, the whiteboarding, the circling around, and then there is, okay, will this work, which is the uncertainty you talked about, and then how do we put this in place? Hey, I found a quote from Sam Walton that I want to go over here, and this is about ideas. Here's what he said. He said, great ideas come from everywhere. If you just listen and look for them, you never know who's going to have a great idea. So just because you're in charge does not mean you have to be the one that comes up with all of the ideas. You just provide the table for everybody to bring it to. And have open ears, because it could be somebody that's helping you pick up the trash. It could be help somebody that's washing the cars or moving the cars that could come up with a great idea. Or if you're at an event, people want to talk shop a little bit. They might say, hey, have you ever thought about this? Always take all those ideas in. That's what Sam Walt's saying here. And then you can whiteboard it up and start putting holes at it as well.
Yeah, that's something so great. And that makes me think about times and lessons of Matt Shelby, both something you've taught me of growing up in the business. But you hit the nail on the head. Sometimes the greatest ideas come from the wildest people that you would never go. You would never listen to. Like, I'm never going to say X, Y, and Z. I'm never going to take advice from them to be able to how to go through and do anything because, and they know how it is too. They accept that. But the funniest thing, we had a guy that used to work for us for years and years and years.
Oh, man.
How many ideas would he bring you? And it was constant over and over and over. And it may be every 100, every 150, 200. One would be like, ooh, dang, he's got something there. Hold on.
You bet.
So it's so important. Don't let the demeanor of the person, who the person is, anything else dictate who you listen. And that just follows along with that quote. So it reaffirms it there. So it's huge.
That's a great point, Taylor. And Shelby, I know you could talk a little bit about obviously Taylor's talking about Wayne here. All we can say his name. But that guy with the amount of ideas, if there's one thing I learned from him, it's like keep the ideas coming. But then I know it also came to me from a management point. Be careful not to squash other people's ideas. Now, Wayne had really thick skin.
Yeah.
And he'd throw idea after idea after idea. But some people, they get the courage up to give you an idea. And that might not be the winning one. It might be 2 or 3 later.
Yeah.
You got to keep telling them it's okay.
Yeah. Then I think that's a really big thing because you might be used to dealing with the Wayne, and then someone else brings you something, and you're like, hey, that's not the one. Bring me another. And they're like, oh, gosh, that took me like 20 days to come up with like the
thinking about this for years.
So you have to keep that in mind. Hey, I saw this online and thought I would share it. This is 6 reasons why early businesses fail.
Okay.
So we're talking about the idea or the new process. So there's 6 main core things of why they fail. Number 1, they're not satisfying a need that is really, they just
true name.
Yeah, they just created a random business, right?
Okay.
They have a bad business plan, so they don't actually have a plan of how to win. Number 3, lack of financing, so they don't have the ability to withstand the growing pains.
Sure.
Number 4, bad location, so whether that be a digital location, they're not in front of people, or actual physical location. This one is really good. Number 5, inflexibility.
Ooh.
So they're not able to pivot.
That's so important.
Yeah.
And I'll give you the 6, and then you can peel these back. But rapid expansion, they grow too fast, and we see that all the time. They grow too fast, and they lose their sizzle or their touch or their small feel. So those are the top 6 reasons why businesses fail.
The flexibility one, I wanted to talk about that as soon as you said it. And I'm guilty of this because sometimes I'm really slow to put things in place. Not because of the idea part, but you guys know this. You've been around me my whole life. Is that then like, okay, let's throw darts at it. Let's try to get this thing perfect or near perfect before we launch it.
Yeah.
Because we want people to believe what we're going to say. But at the same time, it's better to just go ahead and put it in place and be ready to be flexible and pivot based upon input, and don't take offense or get your emotions involved of it didn't work exactly how you planned for it to work.
Yeah, and pivoting off of that, what I've learned from larger companies, much larger than ours, is they maybe will come out with a pilot program that it doesn't, it's not everyone, right? They're not changing the entire business game plan. This is a sub-business. So there'll be dealers that are on a pilot program. And so then if it doesn't work, because it's real world testing, then they go back and say, okay, that didn't work, but what was good from it? What did we learn?
Oh, that's good.
And what would you change? And then it might dissolve back in the background and you didn't see it. And it was like, hey, that was expensive research, but we learned.
You bet.
Or they say that was good, and then they roll it out to everyone. So that's the thing, generally we will try to have it all put together, but it's okay to have a pilot, a group like, hey, I'm going to let this crew, let's say you've got 4 crews of plumbing. I'm going to let one of the crews do this step a little bit differently.
You bet.
And then you have the other 3 to see they're the common denominator.
You bet.
And then you have the test pilot. Let's see. And then you're like, okay, before I just change all the truck colors to red, let's just roll one out to be red. And then they change the way that they book a reservation.
Now that's good. Hey, going back to one before then, I don't remember which number it was that you read off, but it was talking about actually identifying a need,
Yeah.
that's met. And we get caught up in it. And I'm going to use one of our examples here on a business that then we ended up closing. We had an idea is don't get caught up on the idea of a hobby
Yeah.
that you want to put in place just because if it's a want of your own. It needs to be a need and a want of your consumer who is the one that's paying the bill. It's not you. You're trying to generate revenue. And you got to spend money to make money, blah, blah, blah. But don't take your hobby and then try to turn it into a business if there's not a need for it. We ran into this, and it's been years back, 10 years, 15 years ago, where then we opened up you want to call it a hot rod, a performance, a classic. The name of this business was Top Gear right there on College. And it was fun. And we had a lot of cool cars. And we had tons of people. Taylor, you were down there helping me with that one. Had tons of people coming in the front door checking it out.
Absolutely.
And there was a big buzz going on around it, but it didn't convert to the revenue that the original business plan had.
No, it didn't. And we realized there were two sides to that. It was so fun, everything else there. But then we had already had the reason that evolved was we had a little bit of that already going in our business.
We did.
And we enjoyed it. It was
Sure.
something we enjoyed, sports cars and everything else. But it's quick to know whenever you venture out in business or anything else, it's okay to pivot and move back because we saw that and we were like, hey, this is really cool. But wait, hold on. We can still do this within our other facility and it still be as profitable and everything else. It's going as far as, the process and everything else and still be able to do it and have that fun vehicle and everything else because we saw a big deal there of customers, employees, everything else that really enjoyed seeing that.
Sure. They did enjoy seeing it. It just didn't generate revenue.
Yes.
But back, Shelby, on your pivoting thing, within that business model, we ended up pivoting inside there, not just the vehicles, but we had the space that then we went to some aftermarket accessories. We were doing window tint, and then we did Line X there as well, going, okay, we got another location. Where is another need within this other business idea that we could possibly make it work?
Yeah, and I think that was just that we've talked about the 7 streams of income. So you aren't counting on just one stock to pay a dividend or just one product to sell. That was, okay, we have the space for it. We have a need for it. Let's do this. And this allows us to diversify and also be able to withstand not everything rolling as it should or in a perfect rollout. So that allows it. Within that stat, it shows there, and I'll finish you with the stats, but shows that 1 in 5 startups will fail.
Okay.
And within 5 years, over 90% will close shop. So just be prepared for that to be like, there's a pretty good ratio that you're going to have a hard time getting that business off the ground and getting it to last.
Okay.
But you can succeed. Just make sure that you have the right people around you, the thought people, the executors, a good game plan. But most importantly, I would say be flexible.
So how many did you say close shop?
It says eventually over 90% will close shop.
90%.
Okay. And I think closing that whole segment out there, you hit the nail on the head, but it is transitioning your thoughts to reality with clear action. And you always talk about this. We always talk about your worst ink pen is better than your best memory. If you don't write down your clear action plan, even if you looked it all over and everything else, it's not going to happen. If you don't write it down, it's not real. It's just like any goal or anything else. So really good segment there. We dove into it. Hey, but it's time for our fun fact quiz of the week.
Fun fact quiz.
And this has got to be a lot because you see a lot of these popping up everywhere. But how many oil changes are done each year?
Okay.
And we're keeping it in multiple choice because, we got to keep it simple where everyone likes that there. But it's A, 1 million, B, 900 million, C, 100 million, or D, 300 million. So keep that in there. We'll circle back to the end. But how many oil changes are done per year?
Wow, that's a good one there. We'll get some data out of that. All right, going into the next step, and I really like this one. This is going to be a fun core subject that we get to talk about. Is from idea into implementation, as far as, and we're talking about here of the strategy to put it in place, the action plan, whatever you want to label it. And I've heard multiple people talk about this, and we'll get you a percentage coming up here shortly. But, ideas don't cost you anything. So the idea or goal setting, however you want to configure it there, they don't cost you anything. And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about time. I'm talking about effort. Because anybody can say, hey, I want to achieve this. Hey, I'd like to open this business. Hey, I'd like another stream of income like you talked about. But where the rubber meets the road is when you go, okay, we think we've got an idea that'll work here. Now let's develop the marketing plan. Let's develop the action plan to put it in place so we can start getting some fruit out of it. So once we have the idea, and then I'll let you guys take it from here. Once we have the idea, then it's time to get the right people in the room. I don't care what size your business is. Everybody has these people, whether you have 5 employees or you have 200 employees. Get yourself a core group of idea people. Okay, they were in section 1. Now it's time for group 2. And those are the people that help you strategize and can tell you how to implement processes and how do we put this in place and take it from there.
Absolutely. So you have those people that you build up, and you start writing down the process. So you go with what you currently know, what you currently are doing, and how it works, and then you take that, copy that as a maybe as a blank, as a template, and say within the new business, how much of this follows suit, or new business, new department, new idea, how much of it follows suit based off of our template, because you already know what you know.
Yep.
And you already know what works. And so then when you fill that template out of here's how we go to market with this, how many employees do we need? What type of product do we need? How do we show the world that this product is coming? And so then I would say take a proven track record. And it's no difference if you had a window cleaning company and then you bought a sidewalk cleaning company, or if you bought a plumbing company, you're going to take all the things you know and then you're going to duplicate off of that. And then you'll change a little here in step 3 or step 4, but you'll take what you already know. Like, don't reinvent the wheel here.
That's correct. And I found some of the percentages we were talking about. Taylor, I'm backing up to a little bit of your segment here because this is important to note that of people that set, whether it's goals or ideas, only 49% of them actually write it down. And I'd take it even a layer deeper than that, or tell somebody else about it. Whether it's a fitness goal or a business goal or an idea goal, if you don't write it down, if you don't tell somebody else about it, you got no accountability. Without accountability, there's no way it's going to happen. So of the 49% that take the idea and just simply write it down, okay, write it down, okay? Only 48% of those 49% actually get an action plan developed. Okay, so that's half of a half. So if you get to the action plan stage, you're amongst only 25% of people that actually got there. So you can beat 75% of everybody else by writing the goal down and then getting your core group together to talk about strategy. So I'm going to dive a little more into, we got the idea. It's time for the strategy and action plan. Look within your organization and find people that help you carry out tasks. Also find people that are good at bringing solutions when a process is not working. Who are those people you can go bounce the idea of the process, and you're not asking them for a new idea. You're saying, help me identify what's broken here. Help me identify why this is not flowing, why this is taking more time. Where's the roadblock here? And find you, even if it's a couple people, or maybe your business is not big enough to have those, but you either have some mentors or you have another circle of people around you. Go to lunch with them. If you golf, go golf with them or whatever you do, but get in the right room with them to then bounce this idea and say, hey, what do you think would have to happen? What would we have to put in place? What is the strategy here? And then you go back to your team and you start volleying that back and forth. And I know I talked a little bit about earlier, sometimes I take too long to put something in place, yet there's the other side of it, other people put it in place too quick, and the cart goes way in front of the horse. So you've got to bring that up, and then you got to tell the team, hey, we're going to meet 2 days from now, or we're going to meet a week from now. Let it simmer a little bit. Think about it, because lo and behold, you'll wake up the next morning and be like, I forgot to bring up that point, or that could go on that I didn't bring up during the meeting. You guys got any input there?
Absolutely. That's so true. I loved you talking about getting all the different people on your sounding board or in your corner, in your group. This carries over from everything else we talk about. But the biggest deal is going through. If you have one person running through the whole process, it's like letting a racehorse run loose. And in sales, you have a lot of racehorses. You need that one person in your corner that's like, whoa, Matt, hold on. We got to look at this. If you don't do this A, B, and C, you're never going to get to D. You're never going to get to that other plan. So whenever you're going and putting your action plan together, whenever you already got your action plan going, it's so important to have that accountability.
Sure.
Have that meeting, have that group that meets together, because there's going to be changes. You got to be flexible. You got to be able to move, because if not, you're going to become part of the huge percent that Shelby talked about, the even smaller percent that you were talking about going over, that just stays, nope, I'm a hard worker. I know what to do. I'm going to keep moving forward. They don't make any adjustments.
I think that's a really good point. And when you two were talking, I was thinking about that. If you don't have the business that has the depth of the people, the idea of people, or the executor people, or it's just like, man, I don't know. Like, I answer the phones, I book the jobs.
Yes.
I'm the one doing the job. I'm the one invoicing. You're just like, oh, Lord, you probably need to hire someone, step one. But two, it's no different than we learned when we built our new buildings.
Sure.
And I talk about it, and I constantly point out there's two ways to learn something. You can experience it yourself, which generally takes an average of 10 years and is very expensive and will wear on you. Or you can find someone else who's already experienced it. So when we decided to build our new dealerships, we said, let's do it right the first time.
You bet.
Right? And so we went around, and my point to this, and I'll get to a point, is there's someone willing to help. You just haven't found them and asked them. There was not one person in the 100 places we went to, majority dealerships, but not all dealerships, from Walmart, of me asking, hey, can I take a look at your facility of your gym facilities? JB Hunt, Tyson, and all these dealerships. And a lot of them, we just rolled up and walked in the front door, and we asked them, hey, do you mind if we take a look around? And then as we did that, we would ask them, like, hey, tell me about your process here. There was not one person that said, no, get out of here. There's people around you that are just a fountain of knowledge, that have all this experience, and they're just waiting. It might be their lifelong goal is to teach someone else out there how to do something. So don't be afraid to ask. Like, it's no different than reading a book or listening to podcasts like you're doing right now, Crossroad Conversations. Make sure that you just ask some people and take some notes and put it into plan.
Golly, that's good. We've learned so much by that. And we've done both of those pieces you're talking about. Like, I remember, getting out of college, when we first started working, like all three of us have in here, it was put your head down, put the plow on the ground, crank more hours. Nope, I'm not taking any time off. I'm just working. Which
is so good. It works. But then you only know what you know. You only know what you know, and you have the blinders on, and you're just like, you can't get your head above to get a fresh breath, or to look what else maybe the market's doing, or what else possibly people are buying or selling,
But we've got a great example of that with building the buildings is we could just go to work because we had plenty of people around us, and we had a proven track record on selling cars, servicing cars, what that process looked like. So it was like, just put it in place. You don't have to go learn from others. They're right around you. But then we get into construction and development. Guys, we just got to be transparent here. We didn't have a clue.
No.
Like, let's just be honest, okay? We put our game face on all the time. We didn't have a clue.
No, but I'll tell you now, after 10 years, we can mix it up with the best of them. I assure you. Like, you're not going to bluff me with some ridiculous of, trick me through a GMP, or, hey, here's a maximum of this, or, hey, this is the, that's, you're going to have to write that, and that's a markup. And like, we have learned these things, and it's because we ask questions.
That's wise.
We ask questions. We said, let's let the business figure itself out right now. And we had the correct people to do that, and let's go learn from other people.
There are so many people out there. I'm telling you guys this, and I know I know it feels awkward at first until you get into it. It's like going to an event where you don't know anybody. You're like, I know I need to go, and I can network, and some good things can come out of this, but God, it's going to be awkward at first till I get moving.
Yeah, can I pause and point that out? We are all pretty, and we're all a little different. I'm not talking pretty looking good. We're all pretty naturally introverts.
Yes.
That we don't love going out on the town and mixing it up in a social and, hey, how you doing? How your mama doing? How's business? Can we do that? Oh, yeah, we do it every single day for a living.
But that's not natural.
But it's not natural to us. But we learned the juice was worth the squeeze.
It is. And I learned, too, that maybe I didn't know somebody that could legally help me with land rezoning. Maybe I didn't know that person, but I knew some other people that had gone through development. So my network started by asking them, who do you know or who would you recommend? Tell me what you have learned. So then I was a little more educated before I talked to the actual person I needed to talk to. And we've all talked about this a bunch.
Oh, yeah.
You know, whether it's building a hot rod car or a business, you take all these pieces and you start putting these building blocks on top of each other. So then you're educated, so you get better answers because you ask better questions. So as you go through this, and this subject here is effective networking to encourage help, resources, so on and so forth, every single person we ask about this helped us out. There are people in the business world that'll help you. And I'll put a plug here just for the chamber. That's a resource of the chamber. I've been fortunate enough to sit on the chamber board for years and years now, but that's a collective business owners in the area that are resources that want to help each other out. They really do. We're all competitive, but we also don't mind helping and telling you what we've learned.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. That's been huge, monumental in our growth there.
It is. So this piece here is talking about how to get the right people around you. And Shelby, you've helped identify, it might be within your business, it might be outside of your business, but get a good sounding board. The point is don't be on this island by yourself that you come up with the idea, you think it's a great idea, but you hadn't vetted it against your idea people. You hadn't talked to anybody about implementing it, what could go wrong. Yeah. And remember, on both of these areas, you're looking for advice. Yep. You're not giving a seminar.
No.
So hush, ask the question and let them pour into you, okay? And do not, I got to say this part, and y'all are going to laugh when I say this part, do not get blinders on and think your business is different than somebody else's. Business is business is business. Mm-hmm. How many people do we talk to and they're like, no, you don't understand. Mm-hmm. I'm in the medical world. Mm-hmm. I'm in the plumbing world. I'm in the HVAC world. It's like, it's people, it's processes, and a lot of time it's a product.
Yes.
That's it.
Every single thing.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. So once you gather all those people up, you start spitballing those, give it a little bit of time, but not too much time, and then go ahead and put it in place, and do not be scared about failing. All right, we got to get back to your automotive fun fact quiz of the week. You hit us with how many oil changes are done each year. Mm-hmm. And it was 1 million, 900 million, 100 million, or 300 million.
It's got to be a lot, but I mean,
a million's a lot anyway.
That is a lot, but you see that business growing heavily because obviously the expedited, fast oil changes on the corner or anything else. It's all about time. It's all about time getting back there, but it's got to be a lot. It's 900 million.
900 million.
Okay, then do that times what, an average of 6 quarts per oil change?
Yeah, and I totally have to plug business here because it's ours.
Oh yeah, it's ours. Go ahead.
So I was at one of my boys' basketball game the other day, and they said, hey, I got to tell you something. And I said, hit me with it, buddy. You got problems?
You never know what's going to happen.
You never know. Like, Jim Lewis. He was like, hey, I didn't know that you guys did mobile oil changes. And I was like, yeah, we've got a full service van that will come to you and do a majority of repairs at your home or at your business. So he's like, yeah. So one of the guys on the baseball team told me that you guys did that. He said, I'm not a car guy. He said, so I've just been going by whatever corner I drive by and has a Jiffy Lube or, five, whatever the heck it's called.
Take five.
Take five, thank you. He said, I've always done that, and I haven't really paid attention. He said, are those good? And I said, well, they're not bad. As long as they put the oil back in, put the cap on the top and the bottom, then you're good to go, right? But there's a difference in oil. Uh-huh. He said, well, they told me that you did that. So I called. He said, your people were so super nice. And I was like, oh, this is good. This is a good thing. Sure. He said, but they came to me while I was at work. I gave them the keys. I didn't have to go anywhere. And this is going to blow your mind because This is so funny because we get the other side, right? Mm-hmm. But he said, and it was way less money than the instant oil change on the corner. I said, are you serious? I have the best techs in the industry. I bought a $120,000 van and sent 2 technicians out to you. He said, oh, yeah. He said it was way less money. He said it's
Wow.
probably better product. And I said, oh, no, it's full synthetic, like from the manufacturer. What they recommend means your cars last longer. He's like, I'll never do that again to go to down the road to this, that. So we do offer that.
Yeah.
And it's at no additional charge.
At no additional
charge. So
what a convenience item there.
that was the whole idea, right?
Which is what we're talking about here is ideas. and solutions.
And so that was a thing that Ford came up with. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then we just put it into play, gave them a game plan, an action plan. And so 900 million. We're not getting quite that many oil changes, but we're working on it.
It's 5.4 billion quarts.
5.4 billion quarts.
Yeah, it's just because I like the stats. I got to piggyback off of what you said there on a totally different route. One of the things also, because some of y'all are out there like, that's a lot of oil. Wow. Do you know we recycle all of our oil to heat all of our shops?
So the oil that's drained out of a car after it's done
Yep.
goes into a holding tank?
It goes into oil burning heaters. We recycle it, heat our facilities. So we're talking about over 90,000 square feet of just shop space that get heated by oil.
Yep.
So then we save a ton of natural gas
Huge.
every single
Good
month.
night, keep Fayetteville funky.
You know what I mean?
Woo!
Dang, we're doing our part right there.
That's huge.
That's pretty cool. All right, so rolling into the third piece of this segment, managing the challenges through the startup and idea launch. So
Okay.
you've got the idea, you've got the game plan, you have the people, now the startup and the launch.
Okay.
So preparing mentally for the challenges, accept that there will be failures and issues. So talk about some of the initial challenges or failures you might see in an idea launch or a business launch.
You bet. So as soon as you get ready to launch that idea, everybody's excited about it.
Yep.
And we all have these expectations that it's going to go off perfectly and nothing's going to happen. That's not reality. There's going to be something you didn't think of, or there's going to be a variable, or something's going to take longer than you didn't think, so on and so forth. So you need to be prepared for that. And you need to take in that information and not take offense to it. Take in that information and your core group, so your implementation group, the group we talked about in the second subject, they need to be on the same page as you and know, hey, gather information about if we run into a challenge that was unforeseen, collect that information, but at the same time, don't show your facial expression or frustration to your employees or to the consumers. Because a lot of times they don't know any different, you know? And then already schedule with correct timeline. Okay, we're launching whatever it is today, all right? On Friday, we're going to meet back as a core group and talk about any challenges or any unforeseen stuff that has come up. We'll discuss it then in a closed door meeting and talk through those.
I think that's a good point. And, you know, you reference of like if you set a goal, let's say that whether it be a fitness goal or a growth goal or whatever it is, I think an important part is you have to have your KPIs.
You have to.
So your measurement thing.
Yep.
So then with your team, you know, hey, here's our goal or our expectation, and we can be flexible here, but we want to see a 20% growth, or we want to see X ROI, or we want to see X amount of customers served. No different than a goal that you set if I want to lose X percentage or I want to gain such and such.
bet.
You have to have those KPIs so that you know how you can navigate that. But within this of the idea launch, or you're going to ask for a whole lot, right? You're about to change somebody's what they normally do without hiring someone else. And you have to be careful for burnout. You know, so
Yeah.
that's a big deal of understanding that and the burnout and that. Taylor, what's your thoughts of what you see for burnout, self-doubt, or, you know, like how do you identify that? What do you
Yes.
do about it?
Yeah. And I laugh on this. We going through opening this new store of just, it has been, and I've stopped several times with like, this is a monster. We've got to delegate. And a lot of times we have people there that are doing something. So it's not even, that's when you look around you and you're making sure that all of your pieces are moving the way all the machines are on, how they need to be. Because a lot of times as yourself, and you're listening to this, you're a doer, you're a go-getter, and what you're going to do is you're going to take the ball and run, because that's how your business has been successful. That's how you've been taught. That's how you continue to move forward. But let's be honest, it doesn't matter how hard, a thick skin, anything else you go through, you will run into a wall. And I find myself always this way, and I'm backwards. Shelby will wake up at 3 to 4 a.m. I'm always way later in the morning of getting going, but I find myself that I would be staying later at night. So it would be 8, 9, 10 o'clock that I would continue to stay. and I would find myself working past it because everyone's gone and I can focus. Like when 7 o'clock comes, everyone's gone. I'm like, I can get to work. And so then I get after it. You have to make sure that you're taking time for yourself and you're delegating people to be able to help you. Because if not, it doesn't matter how good you are or anything else. You will burn out and you'll start to not like something that you truly love doing.
So how do you think, Matt, if you see self-doubt, like whether that be your self-doubt or people within that new idea, what's your identifier and what do you do with that?
I think as soon as you start seeing that, and you can read it on people's faces.
Yeah.
You know, if you're walking around, of course, we're all accustomed to this, so this is easy for me to say. You know, we all practice, the walking around management theory is we manage by walking around, see what's going on. You can read people's faces, and are they frustrated? Are they upset? Are balls getting dropped? So on and so forth. So then again, you get those key people, pull them to the side. Don't do a whole company meeting. You talk to them. Say, hey, I can see a little bit of frustration here, a little tension here. What's going on? What do we see? Or maybe it's within yourself that you brought up and you're like, man, I just don't know if this is working. Again, bring the same team in, and you got to find people that'll be honest with you and be like, hey, guys, what's y'all's take on this? What do you see? And then sometimes, too, on the self-doubt, you've got to step away and then start looking at the facts. And you got to pull, hey, what was our count on this? How many times do we do this? What does it look like versus last week? Because sometimes your self-doubt could have been you had a type A personality and you set too aggressive of a goal at first, and it just took longer to develop.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been guilty of that plenty of times. And then you got to recalibrate. It doesn't mean you got to throw the baby out with the bathwater. It just means sometimes you got to recalibrate, say, hey, in 6 weeks, we thought we'd have this sucker in place, ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
We're finding that with our commercial repair facility right now. And it's like, no, it's not a bad idea. We just got to recalibrate a little bit. That wasn't achievable. We had a pie in the sky idea, and that's what got this engine rolling.
Yeah.
But now we got to recalibrate that. I'm going to give a real world example on how we had to recalibrate a little bit before we were getting input. You guys will remember this as soon as I say it. When we moved over, we wanted input to see if anything's weren't working or a process wasn't working. And I put a huge whiteboard, dry erase board in every single showroom and in the shop. And anybody was freely to go put ideas on there or things that were broke.
Did they put anything on it?
It was full and we're talking, this is a big whiteboard.
Yeah.
Each place. It was full nonstop. So at a certain point in time, we had to cut that off because
it was like putting out fires of like, okay, is this something that construction people should have performed?
Yes.
So then we had to vet that. We had to, we had the construction people looking at it, and so we had to tell them how to code it. But is this something that should have been performed that wasn't performed, or is this just a grand idea that they think is a grand idea that maybe is a grand idea, or is this something that's just like, hey, I wish that my desk was wider? Because we were getting all of those.
All of it.
But then we had to switch over, and it was like, all right, enough is enough. Brand new building.
Yes.
Let's not forget all 1969 we just came out of there. Climate control.
Yeah.
You need to close the door. You need to use the exhaust hose. You need to turn the switch on. And so then we went from an idea session. That was an idea session. It was an active idea session to now an execution stage.
Yes.
And that was everybody. That's where it's an all skate.
Yes.
And so you have to definitely know when to switch over, because there are some certain people that I will inadvertently walk around their desk when I'm trying to check on the people that I can't always say, hey, do you need anything? Yes. And I want to be able to, but then they'll hit me with all this stuff, and I'm just like, okay, and also hit me with all the good stuff. Tell me what's going good, and then tell me what do you have that's working so well, because I'm like, whoa, no, we cannot buy all that stuff right now.
We just can't. And I think that's a good point. And one of the things we put in place, and I'm not saying everybody has it, but they hear us talking about it, is we're okay if you bring to us an issue or a problem. Just bring a solution with it, too.
That's such a good point. And I spent time, I heard that in a book that I'm reading right now, and sorry to cut you off, but I spent an hour in the sales meeting yesterday on it, and it's called the 131, and it's not his original idea, but Dan Martell, How to Buy Back Your Time. This is this book I'm reading. And so it's a 131. So a quick breakdown. I spent an hour on it, but it's one thing. And some of our managers have a hard time bringing just one idea. It's one idea, 3 solutions,
Okay.
or 3 fixes and then their pick.
Okay.
And I loved that, the 1-3-1 of like, okay, here's the one problem that we have. Here's 3 solutions to the problem. They're available. Here's the cost on them. And here would be my pick.
Yeah. That's good.
You know, it was
really good.
like, okay, all right, I really like that. Instead of most of the time, the problems that come to you is like, hey, the bathroom stinks, or hey, we can only check in X people through here. The car wash is really loud.
Wow.
And it's like, okay, do you have any ideas or solutions? And not everyone will, right? You have to realize that's certain people.
So let me, before you dive into that, let me help everybody out there because they're listening. They're going, okay, well, you put yourself out there and allowed, at that campus at this point in time, when we were going through construction, we were about 180 or 200 employees. You allowed 200 people to give input. Anybody could write anything on the board. But then how do you go from there to continue to be open and progressive, and you just throw the whiteboards away?
Yeah.
Well, how that happened, and you can look, we all have a text group of the big move, is what it's called.
Yeah.
So it went from 200 people to then 15 people are in that. We would have in-person meetings, and then we would communicate. So when we removed those whiteboards, then we got the 15 core people together.
Yeah.
We're like, we need some help on filters. We want to progressively keep moving and fix something that needs to be fixed. But we also need to filter it going, are they bringing a solution there? Just like what you talked about. Is it relevant? And we need to make sure, because what we did find out is people were thinking if they put it on the board that their wish was going to come true.
Yeah.
It was like a Christmas wish.
Yeah.
It's already done.
So we had gone too far because
Yeah.
we were trying to get buy-in. But again, we didn't throw it out.
No.
We just pivoted and adjusted.
Yeah.
We recalibrated that.
Yeah, that was really big. And I mean, I think y'all hit all the nails on the head there of going over, of just making sure the whole thing through this is you can be flexible, you can be adjustable, and you have to be able to have the people surrounding you.
Yeah.
And if it's time to cut it,
Do it.
move on.
Do it.
We've learned from the large corporations that do that. The Walmarts, and I know that that's where you're hitting all over there by our house. They've got the drone delivery. That's not in every Walmart.
Yeah.
They're piloting it there.
Yeah.
Or, if you look at other ideas that companies have, they try it out, and then when it doesn't work, you cut it, you move on. And there's been plenty of times that we've rode it all the way to the ground because it was our idea and emotions and
Yeah, maybe you invested money. You talk about large corps, but you think like, man, I bought that $2,000 tool, or hey, here was the process of this, this, and this. You got to know when to say when. So you have to measure your metrics. You have to be available for challenges or doubters that come. You have to have the KPIs to keep people focused in that.
Yeah.
You have to keep them focused in that, moving. But then from a managerial standpoint, you're going to need to be able to measure that and realize when it's time to cut bait, because we've given it time, tools, and training.
Yep.
It's no different than people or process. Time, tools, and training. We've given it all the effort. Hey, this is going to work. Stick with it. Or 2, we need to pivot hard here and do this. Right.
I know we're getting close on time, but I got to take this as an example because it just came up with when you were talking about that. We talked about our Top Gear location, ended up closing that. It was a great idea. I'm going to rewind the tape a little bit, and if Dad was sitting in here, he'd be able to add in on this. But we used to own a boat store.
Yeah.
Very successful. We were top 10 tracker nitro dealer in the U.S.
Yeah.
We sold a lot of boats. But when we peeled back the layers, after we'd had it for probably 15 years, we peeled back the layers, the amount of talent that it took in capital to make that thing a profitable business, what that same talent and money could do if we expanded our automotive business was a lot greater.
Had a better ROI.
So at that point in time, we sold the boat business. And then and I'm now just putting all these pieces together because Dad hadn't told us that at the time. That's when we built a super center.
Yep.
So about the same time when we sold the boat store, Lakeland Marine was the name of it at the time, we opened up our independent, large used superstore there in Fayetteville off College.
Yeah.
And we could take that talent and that capital and get an X factor by pivoting, being okay with like, hey, this was everybody's idea and it was fun. And it was even a successful business.
Yeah.
And then we pivoted.
You have to think about that, though, because it's funny you bring that up. Dad likes fishing.
Yes.
Right?
I know.
So, and it's funny because he has his original business plan, and I was reading through it the other day, and it doesn't say in there, I love fishing, I'd like to have boats. And it's not like he was just getting boats they could go fish with,
Sure.
right? He made it a business. But then he said, you know what, I got to remove myself and my love for this it's still making money. This is still successful, but the ROI is not what we hoped it would be. And all these people, what do we do during the wintertime with these people? And how do we keep good technicians? I said, let's just reinvest, right? Let's keep all the people that we can, move them over here, move them over there. But that's how you have to pull yourself out of it.
Get the emotions out.
Like, look, if you want a boat, go buy a boat. Yeah. Look, if you want a tractor, go buy a tractor. Don't try to buy the whole dealership, right?
Some people get so caught up in that. They emotionally want to have something. Everyone wants to enjoy what they do in business, but you enjoy doing business because it produces fruits and labor of everything that you're putting in. Don't get into business because it's like, this would be cool. Because so many people always ask us, being in the car business, like, y'all keep all these cars. We are the absolute worst people at collecting cars in the car business. We've just sold them over the years, and we enjoy doing that. We see the value of that. So don't get into something just because you think it'd be cool to do it, because it won't work.
Yeah, you totally got to understand that. All right, so now we got to transition. Frequently asked questions.
Okay.
We get asked a lot of questions.
We do.
Most of them are just, like, hey, where do I do this? Or, hey, Taylor, you doing okay? Or, how's it going? Or whatever. But, Matt, would you say that, we've gone over this before, but is there a frequently asked question that's on your mind?
I'm going to go a little bit deeper today and not just.
Well, go ahead and peel it back.
How do you get the cars? I'll tell you what I get asked a whole lot with the dynamic of the three of us in a family business is, do you guys always get along? How do y'all work together every single day? And so here's my answer to that when I tell people. I'm like, we're all humans. So do we always get along? No. Okay. But do we hold grudges and get mad at each other? No.
No.
And here's how that works, because that easily can happen. Is we talked about this in a couple podcasts ago. You have to understand and identify that you always aren't the one taking the lead, or it doesn't always have to be your idea. Yep. The dynamic between the three of us, even though we're all in the same family, we all have different personalities and strengths and weaknesses. It's you have to identify if somebody's passionate about this idea like we're talking about. Now, we're all going to make sure we vet it and the process is correct. But then you let them take the lead and you support them. And then it's going to flip-flop. So you just have to make sure, get your emotions out of it, no matter what your position code is or title, all right? And be able to have a debate and discuss and talk about it. And there are times we got to say, hey, business is business, and personal is personal, and this isn't personal, but we got to talk business.
That's such a good point. And so I think maybe we'll break this down. I know this was just basic, but we'll break it down because we can run this as far as we want.
Yeah.
So there's three brothers, Matt, Shelby, and Taylor, just so you guys understand this, because it's funny because our kids will point this out. Like, hey, who's in charge, right? They'll ask that. So it's one of those things that you really, really, really have to put your ego at the door, that it doesn't matter. And it's so rare that Matt comes to me. Matt's my boss. I'm Taylor's boss. And that's just how it works. That we say, you do this because I told you to and you have to. Could he say that? Could I say that? Absolutely. Is that how we say that to any of our people? Or any of our team? No. And so we wouldn't want that someone to say, Dad's never told us that.
Exactly.
And so it's just like, hey, we're pretty good at manipulation of words. It's like, hey, Matt, like, this is a pretty good marketing plan. What do you think about this? Or like, hey, do you need me to help with the marketing and this or whatever it is? Like, Taylor, what about this stuff for the sales guys? Yes. And so it's putting your ego at the door and realizing, because the kids are like, who's in charge of who? And it's like, who's in charge of you, kid?
The funniest thing there, and you get it only from a good relationship, but we always talk about it, whether it be horses or sports or anything else, but like showing them the whip or anything else. There's so many ways of us working together. You don't even have to say anything. And it's probably better because obviously of going through and saying, hey, just do this is what you got to do. No, it's easy to be able to pick up and read. I can tell whenever my team's not been doing what they need to do, because Shelby will say one thing or hack away and I'm like, oh, God, need to revamp. Or if Matt walks through and says anything else, it's one word, but it's having a good working relationship with your team. So it's not like knock down, drag out, going over. It's because y'all set everything aside. You figure out how you work together. But it's so fun to be able to be. It's like in football, calling audibles. The other team has no idea what he even said. Shelby can be sitting on the tower with me 4 people in here, 6 people, and say one thing and look at me, and I know exactly what we're talking about and going over. And the rest of the team's like
has no clues. Like,
what are you talking about?
That's such the cool thing of like us just always being in the trenches together, and sometimes it's separate times. But then realizing that, and this person taking the lead, but I'm like, hey, have you thought about this? Or I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna be at the front desk greeting people, Taylor, and he's like, oh crap, that means we need to get people on the front desk.
Code blue.
Yeah, but we've never, knock on wood, but the way we have never like had a knockdown drag out of cussing at each other or of like, screw you, you're not in charge of me, or you know, we're Dad's words, super blessed. But it's just been a good like there's plenty of times we don't agree, and sometimes we just have to like walk away, and it's like, hey, let's come back to this. I'm not pissed and saying you do this and I do that, but you just figure it out.
You do, and that doesn't mean it's not this kumbaya. And so I gotta. This is turning into a whole subject, but it's okay because it's relevant. It's not this kumbaya. Whoa, you got this perfect, family business. There's a money tree out back and some sort of trust fund.
No,
because none of that's true, by the way. But it's learning to give and take, and egos to the side. No different than the kids asking, because I love answering when the kids ask me the same thing. I'm like, Pops is in charge. He's in charge of all of us.
Go check with
that's our dad. I was like, he's in charge of all of us.
Yeah, he probably says, go check with your dad.
So just knowing that, like, we can agree to disagree without anybody getting upset. It could be somebody else's idea, and it's okay. Because as long as your goal and your focus is larger than you, that's your North Star in this whole thing, it really helps.
And we all get, in the end, we all get to where we're going.
We do. And we understand that it's not whether my idea was the one, or Shelby's idea, or Taylor's idea, or he generated more revenue this month. It's how collectively could the business do more, and deeper than that, the employees hitting their goals and expanding, and the rest is taken care of.
So when someone asks you that in the showroom, do you give them all that?
Not all of that. My short answer is what they call the elevator speech is, we all understand business is business and personal is personal, and we give and take and support each other in all the different ideas. That's the short answer.
Okay, that was
kind of drew us off there.
That's fine. So Taylor, frequently asked questions. Some people
frequently asked questions. There's so many, but the thing I love the most. I love the most because this is my demeanor off of, but that means the team's listening. I love whenever customers come in and they're like, "Hey, what do y'all do here?" And why they're asking that question, like, what do y'all do here that makes it be this atmosphere? It means that our team is having that much fun. They're always smiling. It's so why I completely forgot what word I'm saying here, but it's so like infectious.
Infectious,
yes.
Contagious of going over, and then I just sit back and smile, and I'm like, this is great. So I love being part of that. It's something we work so hard in, but then everyone can have that much fun. So I love hearing that of, what do y'all do here? Like, that makes it have this atmosphere. So love seeing that.
That's definitely a great question. And that's like this morning we had a managers meeting, and I was asking, we definitely have our forecast and our goals and our KPIs. And so with the managers, I said, hey, everybody raise their hand that's at or above their goal for the month. And nobody raised their hand, right? Because we set big goals, lofty goals to chase after. I said, okay, now when we leave here, and they know the demeanor, right? They know the way that we talk and take care of people. But I remind them constantly, hey, don't go judo chop anybody, don't go fire anybody, and don't go say, hey, Shelby said we suck and we need to sell more cars. I said, go love on them, but they need to understand the temperature needs to be different. You need to adjust the thermostat without adjusting the thermostat. And so understanding that, so that's how you can keep the culture. It's not like, well, party's over. This was fun. Throw the pizza away. Let's go. So that's the fun part in that. So, all right. Thanks for joining us this week for Crossroad Conversations. We dove all the way into where do I start with my new business or my new idea. So fun to break that down with the three brothers, Matt, Shelby, and Taylor. As always, make sure to follow us on all the socials. Join us and dive into our available over 1,000 units on the ground at lewissuperstore.com and crossroadpodcastconversations.com for the latest and greatest. Subscribe, leave us a comment who you want to hear from next and what you want to see next.
Hey, thanks for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to give it a like, share it with your friends and family, visit our website, and send us some questions. We want to know what you'd like to hear, who you'd like to hear from, and what you want to see, or maybe even some questions for us to answer about either the automotive industry or just business in general.